When people want to change a color in a photograph, I think that the first instinct is to use one of the selection tools in order to select that color. But in fact, there's a much easier way to do this, and that's with the hue and saturation adjustment layer. So I'm going to select the hue saturation adjustment layer, and let's take a look at the different properties. Well, by default, we're going to be adjusting the master, which means that if I change the hue, we're going to be changing all of the hues for all of the different color ranges. I'll reset that by double-clicking Hue. And if I change the saturation, we're going to be changing the saturation for all of the color ranges. So let's reset that as well. But if I click and hold where it says Master, you can see that I can select individual color ranges. So if I select the yellow color range, we can see that a number of icons have been added down here between the two color strips. So the area in the center here, this area is going to be affected 100%. So the yellow color range will be affected. Let's go ahead and desaturate the yellows. We can see kind of the before where the color strip was yellow and the after where it's been desaturated. And of course, we can also see that in the image area. Now we can enlarge the range of colors that are being affected by clicking in the kind of darker gray area here and then dragging out to the left. And as we do that, now we can see that not only are the yellows being affected, but also the reds. And sure enough, in the image, the reds have also been taken to grayscale, basically, because I've removed all of the saturation. Let's go ahead and move that back so that I'm only affecting the yellows. But I can also change the fade range, and I would do that by clicking on this icon and dragging it out. Now that you can see that the area between the two lighter rectangles, this area is being completely affected, but it's slowly fading from being completely affected to not affected at all, which is why some of the reds have also decreased in saturation. All right, let's reset that by clicking on the reset icon down here. And what if I wasn't quite sure what the color range is that I was trying to target? It was pretty obvious when we selected yellows a moment ago, but you'll notice, for example, there's nothing that says orange, and this color range right here is a different color than the one on the sign. So let's go ahead and select reds, but if I want to isolate a specific color, then I can use my eyedropper tool here, and if I click in this area, you'll notice that these icons are going to shift a little bit. So when I click, you'll notice just that slight shift over from reds more towards the oranges. So now when I desaturate this, of course, both the reds and the oranges are being changed, but I can tighten this up or shift this over a little bit and then decrease the space here and decrease the fade range. You can see I can actually tell the difference between this red, which is a more cherry red, it's more towards the pinks here, than this red, which was more towards the oranges. In fact, if I desaturate that, you can see this is being affected a lot more, but not quite enough. So let's pull that out. Not sure if I can get exactly one of those and not the other, just because they're so close in range. But I wanted to show you the concept there that you could isolate just one color range more than another. Finally, if you prefer kind of a more interactive way to select your color ranges, we can use this targeted adjustment tool. So again, I will reset this by clicking on the reset icon. And now when I select my targeted adjustment tool, Photoshop's going to assume that whatever color I click on, that's the color that I want to change. So I'll click in the yellow area and then just drag to the left, and you can see that I'm desaturating those yellows. If I click in that area and drag to the right, I'm increasing the saturation. I'm going to go ahead and decrease it for now. And I might also want to change the hue. So I'll hold down the Command key and then I'll click with the targeted adjustment tool. Now you can see that I can shift the hue around the color wheel. Let's go ahead and move that more towards green. Let go of the Command key or the Control key on Windows, and then click to drag to the right to either increase that saturation, to the left to decrease it. Oh, let's go ahead and add a bright neon green there. If you find that you always want to use the targeted adjustment tool as opposed to selecting the different color ranges, you can use the flyout menu right here and select the Auto Select Targeted Adjustment tool. All that does is it tells Photoshop whenever you add a hue saturation adjustment layer to automatically give you that tool. I'll go ahead and leave it off for now. And we can collapse the properties panel, and then we'll use the eye icon to toggle the visibility of that hue saturation layer on and off. And don't forget, because this is an adjustment layer, it has a mask. So if I were to select my paintbrush by tapping the B key, Now we get a larger brush using that right bracket. If I only wanted to change the yellows in this area up here, all I would need to do is paint with black. So I'll tap the X key in order to exchange my foreground and background color so that black is my foreground color. I'll tap the 0 key to make sure that I'm painting with 100%, and I'm just going to paint this change out of the areas that I don't want it. So now this adjustment layer is only affecting the top portion of the image. And there you have it, an easy way to change a color range using the Hue and Saturation adjustment layer without ever having to make a selection.